Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Halton Hills housing update. So it has been a hot minute since I've been on here. My last market update was February the 6th, and the week after that, Matt and I welcomed twins into our family. So we are officially parents to 4 kids now. It has been a crazy few months. Me and one of the twins basically spent 6 weeks in Hamilton in the NICU, so I was physically not even here to be doing my market updates. So to say it's been a bit of a roller coaster since they joined us is an understatement, but we've been home for a few weeks and life is starting to kind of get back to normal, and so I am back to work. And many of you know that Matt is a stay-at-home dad, so yeah, things are going to be going back to normal. It's definitely different, but we're super happy that everyone is home and healthy, and yeah, I can get back to my market updates. So that being said, I'm not going to be like recapping all the things I missed over the last like 2.5 months. It would just be too much. So I'm kind of going to start from scratch, talk about what's going on with the market. I've obviously been keeping my finger on the pulse of what's happening. I've just sort of had to do it from a distance, and a big shout out to Mackenzie, who works with me, who sort of held down the fort while I, again, physically was not here to do so. So on we go. That's sort of my explanation of why, after 4 straight years of doing my updates, that I had to take a little bit of a break. So we are back, and let's check out what happened last week in Halton Hills. So in Georgetown last week, there was 12 sales. That's a good number in terms of higher than normal, not crazy high given where our inventory levels are, but it's still showing that the market is moving. There was 22 new listings, so we definitely are seeing an influx of listings. Things have certainly shifted since, you know, my last update in February when the market was pretty quiet in terms of listings. That just certainly is not the case anymore. So 22 new listings in Georgetown last week. It's just a lot. So looking at Acton, last week Acton had 2 sales and 4 new listings. There was no sales and no new listings in Glen Williams or Limehouse, and the rural market had 4 sales, which, if you follow this, you know that that is a high number for the rural market, but there was 6 new listings. So again, inventory is definitely starting to come on. We're seeing a lot of people who didn't have success last year re-entering the market. And I think it's just the overall consensus is that it feels like a good climate to be putting your house on the market. So we're starting to see that happening. A couple of things to note: of all of the sales last week, only one of them sold over asking. So we are seeing properties moving pretty rapidly. If they're priced well and they show well, we're seeing them move quickly, but we're not seeing like still the chaos of, you know, we're not at that point where we're seeing hundreds of thousands over asking or anything like that. Like, we're just not in that market, and I don't know if that's ever going to return. Just people are definitely more cautious than they were in 2022, especially given interest rates. But only one selling over asking is a good indicator to show you that, you know, the right product may have some competition, but we're still in a pretty solid buyer's market in the sense that you can negotiate, and the only thing that's really changing is that you kind of have to make decisions a bit quicker because properties are selling faster. So we're still not in that chaotic market in Halton Hills. There's signs that, like, you know, if interest rates were to drop or if inventory stops coming on the market as rapidly, we may flip back into a bit of a crazy market. But right now, with where inventory levels are, it's feeling very stable. Something to note, so when I looked at the expireds, terminateds, everything of last week, we did have 9 properties actually drop their price and relist at a lower price. So again, that's another indicator that we're still sitting in a buyer's market. The sellers still are not sitting in the leverage standpoint. You know, when I left in February, they were starting to really have the leg up because inventory was so low, but that has sort of flipped again and things have really changed. So we are seeing people reducing their price. Another thing, if 4 people came off the market completely, so they just weren't getting the results they wanted, and then 4 people relisted it at the same price. So they, you know, wanted to freshen up the listing, get it back on the top search page. So 4 people relisted at the exact same price. So when we are in like a hot market, you know, we had 17 properties that did something in terms of terminating, expiring, relisting, all that last week. When we're in a hot market, it's like 2 to 4. It is like no one does anything. So it just, again, is an indicator that we're not really there. So something to note, in those 9 properties that relisted lower, there was a few of them that relisted 100 to 200,000 lower and are trying the offer night strategy now. So I will keep you posted on how all of that goes. So now looking at active inventory, these numbers sort of surprise me because I've been looking at the market, but not like in the same way that I do when I do my market update. So when I left in February, we were at 94 active listings. We are up to 167. So in the 2+ months that I've been gone, we have seen inventory not quite double, but getting pretty close to doubling. And so that is just interesting on where I didn't think we'd be going in this direction. I thought we might have some scarce inventory, but because the market got really strong there in March, I think a lot of people were like, yeah, let's get our house on the market. So we're at 167, gonna be watching this. Like that is a pretty, anything over 150 is a pretty high number for Halton Hills. We could get in a situation again where we're in like a saturated market and then buyers start to hold off to see what's gonna happen. Looking at Georgetown this week, Georgetown has 90 active listings. Not insanely high, but it's definitely not low. This is kind of that middle ground where inventory is not scarce, but it's not saturated and things are moving really well. What has really changed is some of the price points are feeling very saturated. So looking at our price points, under 800,000 only has 6 active listings and 800 to $1 million only has 12. So in total of our 90 listings, only 18 of them are under $1 million. That is still our price point and our sweet spot that continues to move very rapidly and is just stronger because we have more people that can afford that under $1 million price point. So in terms of inventory there, still very scarce, things are moving. If you have a house to sell in that pocket, good time to be thinking about putting it on because the buyers are there for that. So here's our $1 million+ price points. As always, the big conversation when inventory starts to get saturated. So 1 to 1.5 million has 40 active listings. This is pretty high. Like when we got to the peak, we were in the high 50s, but 40 is quite a bit. In February, there was only 18. So we have more than doubled our inventory in the 1 to 1.5 price range. 1.5 million plus is right back to being completely saturated. It was at 9 active listings in February and it was like, okay, people are like getting realistic with their pricing and like there just wasn't a lot going on there. And now there's 32. So a lot of people trying to fetch big dollars for their properties again. And again, the buyers still just are not here. I mean, we are seeing a lot more properties transacting over $1 million. I cannot deny that. I think like half of the listings that we saw last week were over $1 million, but over 1.5 million is pretty scarce still. And to find buyers in that pocket is still not as easy. It's easier than it was in the fall, but it's still just a pocket, especially when we see a saturation like that, that is not going to move as rapidly as the other price points. So Acton this week has 25 active listings. That's a pretty high number for Acton. Anything like if we're looking at when it starts to get busy in Acton, it's when it's under 15. So 25 units is a lot there. 6 of them are over 1 million, but the far majority are still under $1 million. So there are, they're sort of targeting that busier price point under that $1 million. There's a lot available in Acton. But again, we just don't move as quickly in Acton when there's stuff available in Georgetown. Glen Williams this week has 8 active listings. They're all over $2 million, so you need to have big money to be moving to the Glen. Limehouse has 3 active listings, and the rural market is up to 41 active listings. We were at 28 in February when I did the last update. So 41 is an extremely high number. Being in the 40s is very rare in the rural market. So lots of inventory there. And the theme, like, again, I'm just analyzing it in a way I haven't in a few months because I haven't looked at it the way that I normally do. And it seems like definitely our higher price points, people are trying to get rid of those. And there's just a lot of them, and our market is moving. It seems like it's healthy right now if you are pricing your house appropriately, especially under $1 million. Like that's really strong right now. So that's sort of where we're at. It's kind of like this new starting baseline for me. Obviously, I have, you know, the 4 years of history to talk about, but getting back into the swing of things and, you know, really getting the finger back on the pulse of what's happening in the market. So I will be back next Tuesday. Thank gosh, I've honestly missed doing these updates. I've missed being home. I've missed working. So it feels really great to be back. Thank you to everyone who reached out to be like, hey, where are your market updates? And just to make sure everything was okay. So appreciate that. And I will be back next week. Have a great week, everyone.